Riding along on my bush bike, honey. Woohoo! Get on your bikes and ride! Woohoo! Riding along on my push bike, honey. I've been on the bike today. The Central Rail Trail in the South Island of New Zealand is recognised as one of the funnest bike rides that you can do in New Zealand. In fact, some people say in all of the world. But it was really interesting today being on the trail to see how many people are not really riding a bike. They're sitting on a thing that's got two wheels, but it's got a motor or it's an electric bike. And there's a whole lot to be said about people wouldn't normally go bike riding if they didn't have electric bikes. It was really interesting because this is my very cool old lady's bike. I love it. It's got gears, but I don't use them. It's just got forward and brakes. And when I get to a hill that I can't get up, I get off my bike and push my way up the hill. And I can ride for hours. And the reason I can ride for hours is because I'm fit and strong. And who cares about Rowie? But it's a question I always ask. We used to lift up our own roller door, but now we have a remote control. The phone used to be connected to the wall, and if you answered the phone, you actually had to go over to the wall, walk to the wall, and answer the phone. Remote controls were, when I grew up, the television didn't have a remote control. You actually had to turn a dial on the television, and to change the channel on the TV, you had to get up off the couch and move your body. They're just little things, but when you have a look at the research studies on non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT, which is how many calories we burn during the day that isn't specific to exercise. People who move a lot more burn 1,000 or more calories every day just because they move more. So I go out for a bike ride today for a few hours. I didn't have an electric motor to help me. I had to use my own electricity inside my body. My central nervous system, my endocrine system, my muscles and my bones had to push me through my bike ride. I just think it's really sad that as a human race we've become inactive, and inactivity is now considered it is the biggest killer, because everything is related back to inactivity. The biggest killer diseases in the world are related back to being unfit and weak and frail because we are inactive. And when you put that into perspective, a lot of those diseases are supposed to be old people's diseases, like coronary heart disease, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, sarcopenia, where your muscles rot away. That's all supposed to happen to old people. Well, sadly, and it breaks my heart, we now have children who have osteoporosis, weak, thin, frail bones that are wasting away. Type 2 diabetes. I've just listened to a top cardiologist, talk about most of the heart disease operations that he was doing were on 60, 70, 80-year-old people. He said, I've just done an operation for a 16-year-old child that has coronary heart disease. I don't think old people should get these diseases, but to see them in children, it's just, of course there's a reason why, and is it possible it's because we have become inactive? So why do we use excuses not to move? And why don't we create reasons to move? And that's the really interesting question that I'm constantly asking now. There's plenty of excuses not to be fit and strong, but what about the reasons to be fit and strong? What about to stop our kids from having osteoporosis, coronary heart disease, type 2 diabetes? And I just want to talk about type 2 diabetes just for a minute, because it is an old person's disease. It used to be called age-onset diabetes. Now it's called type 2 diabetes. The experts in the world who handle that particular disease suggest that the only cure is to be fit and strong. There's no medication for it. Now, there's plenty of people being prescribed medication, but the only cure for type 2 diabetes is to lose weight, to be fit and to be strong. If you are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and you get fit and you get strong, in most cases, if not all, your type 2 diabetes disappears. That's one of the biggest killers in the world, and that disease is responsible for the most amputations, blindness, renal failure, kidney failure, and the argument is death. The coronary heart disease people say we kill more people, but the type 2 diabetes people are saying no, we kill more people, because technically it's cardiovascular disease where your hoses are blocked inside your body, and that causes all the other horrible diseases. The only cure for that disease is to be fit and strong, to lose weight and to be fit and strong. So that's why I get really sad, particularly at this time of the year in New Zealand, because the Central Rail Trail isn't filled with young people. It isn't filled with people on school holidays or young tourists from around the world. At this time of the year, the rail trail is old people. It's people over 60, retired people who are travelling around New Zealand, which is awesome. But that's me. I'm an old person too, and here's me on my old lady's bike that requires me to push my own body across a large expanse of space. It was funny when we first started on the trail today, we thought that our bikes were a bit hard to pedal, but what we realised when we came back the other direction is it was all uphill, and we just came out and I just cycled, because that's what you do. I was brought up in a world where when you ride a bike, it didn't have an engine, it didn't have a motor. That's called a motorbike in my. And interesting, on the trail, there's a sign in quite a few places in New Zealand. There's signs where it says, "This is a cycle trail, you can't ride your motorbike here." And yet electric bikes are now more common than normal bikes. I'll say that again. Electric bikes have become more common than a normal push bike. It's called a push bike for a reason, because you have to push your own body. I'm sharing this with passion and enthusiasm because obviously I've had a fantastic day. I've had a stack of exercise, fresh air, sunshine, beautiful scenery, absolutely loved it. But the really sad thing for me today is to see so many people who are just not using their body to push their bike. They're using a battery, an electric mechanism rather than their own muscles and bones. And if you don't use your muscles and bones, they waste away. If you don't use it, you will lose it. So my philosophy is always this: I'm going to keep using it so I don't lose it, because I want to be able to sing every day. I feel good, na 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 na. I rode my push bike today, na 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 na. Ride your bike, honey. Get on your push bike, honey, and ride your bike.